What's up, everybody? The bye week is behind us, and the second half of the season is finally here. And of course, we are back to preview this week's Oklahoma game against Central Florida. I'm John Hoover, publisher at AllSooners, and Ryan Chapman and Randall Sweet, they're going to jump in here in a minute to help me pull it apart one more time before kickoff, which is Saturday at 11 a.m. If you're not coming to Norman now, you can always watch that thing on ABC, nationally televised. Again, OU is 6-0. 3-0 in Big 12 conference play, and all of a sudden I think you're starting to see some things happening for these Oklahoma Sooners. Midseason All-Americans, Heisman contenders. All of a sudden ESPN's FPI, the Football Power Index, says OU is mathematically a favorite to win the national championship. No kidding. Beating Texas 2 weeks ago did all that. Okay, let's get to the fellas, and let's jump into today's breakdown for UCF. First up, does Oklahoma's defense pick up where they left off, or do we start to see some hiccups and some setbacks coming out of the open date against what's really a pretty good UCF offense?
Yeah, Oklahoma has had a different challenge. They've got to handle all the praise, all the hype, not get too full of themselves. But if you go back and listen to what Danny Stutzman said 2 Mondays ago with Brent Venables coming in, breaking down that film against Texas, and how much improvement this defense can have, I think that you're going to see a unit come out and play with that same intensity that they played in the Cotton Bowl. Feels like the pass rush hitting home, the 5 sacks against Texas, that will be a motivational boost. Brent Venables talked about Ethan Downs still having much more to give, and I think that as Stutzman continues to play the level that he has, another 2 weeks for Jaron Canick to develop and come along, a healthy secondary, Gentry Williams back in there, maybe for an entire game. I see no reason why Oklahoma won't pick up right where they left off defensively. Yes, there's a lot of deception and things that Gus Malzahn throws in, but Oklahoma was excellent against SMU, against all those types of things. And I think inside those walls, these two offenses are being compared a bit. And on top of that, Johnny Plumlee, he will throw plenty of interceptions. We've seen that plenty throughout his career, but especially at UCF, even this year. So I think Oklahoma's defense, while it is a strong test, all of that, I think that this is a week for Oklahoma to show it wasn't just 6 weeks. It wasn't just one good performance against Texas. This group is for real, and I think that they'll be really, really good and sharp on Saturday.
I think that coming out of the bye week, it would not be surprising to see OU's defense have a few hiccups against a UCF offense that is obviously very good running the ball. They'll have John Rice Plumlee, their quarterback, back this week, which obviously will help that offense. Now, whether he's 100% or not will play a huge factor in how OU's defense plays. Obviously, John Rice Plumlee adds a lot that their backup quarterback, who's not a bad player, doesn't provide. But I do think that even if the OU defense does have a few slip-ups, especially early in the game, that Brent Venables, Ted Roof, the coaching staff will get that cleaned up, and I think that by the end of the game that we'll see the OU defense that we've all been used to seeing so far this season, whether that's making stops behind the line of scrimmage, kind of containing big run plays. Now, obviously, Texas was able to put the ball on the ground for some success a few times against OU. So if the defense does have a few hiccups against UCF, it wouldn't be surprising, but I think that in the end of the day, OU's defense will take care of business.
Yeah, listen, I don't know of any simpler way to say it than this. Oklahoma's defense is for real. The Sooners are legit on defense, and yet you go back through the first 6 games, especially that Texas game, and you see lots of teachable moments for Brent Venables and that defensive staff, right? You see some now listen, Oklahoma's got some impressive defensive rankings, NCAA statistic-wise, Pro Football Focus-wise, but in year 2 under Brent Venables, I think everybody would agree there is a whole lot of room to get better. Am I right? Now, second question. Dillon Gabriel is coming off his first career 100-yard game. Does he continue to be heavily involved in the OU run game? Or does anyone, finally emerge as RB1? Me personally, I think what we saw in the Cotton Bowl was a one-off. It has to be. If there's a game on the line, or if there's a goal line situation and you need to trick the defense because you think maybe you can't really convert an important situation on the ground, a 3rd and 1, a 4th and 1, 4th and goal, something like that, then sure. DG, Dillon Gabriel is as good an option as any. But to use him that much, what we saw 2 weeks ago, I think that's a real risk. He's just too valuable. Guy's a Heisman contender, and he's a passing whiz this year. So I'm going to say someone, again, anyone, has to finally step up. Maybe it's Tawee Walker. Maybe it's Javante Barnes finally getting healthy. Or maybe it's Gavin Sawchuk, who finally has another moment. Someone, anyone, needs to carry the rock and get those tough yards. What do you guys think?
I think this can go kind of two directions. I do think Dillon Gabriel is going to be a big part of Oklahoma's rushing attack going forward. We saw that even against Cincinnati and Iowa State. Wasn't running for 100 yards, but he was getting into the end zone a couple of times against Iowa State, that key run against Cincinnati. But UCF's run defense is awful. It just is. They're one of the worst units in the country. And Oklahoma's had 2 weeks, whether it's Caden Green or Troy Everett, whoever at left guard. I think it'll be Caden Green and Caleb Schaefer at right guard. Oklahoma's had 2 weeks to get those guys prepared, rep that every day in practice through the bye week and into UCF week. And I truly believe this is the week that, Tawee Walker, after the Texas game, said, we see that kind of physicality. We see exactly what it's supposed to be. That's the standard now. I think you're going to see that as well this week. So everyone and their dog has run all over UCF. This is the week where Dillon Gabriel, he'll have bigger fish to fry later on in the schedule. I still think he'll be explosive through the air. Not that they're not going to tell him not to run the ball at all, and you've got that backup with Jackson on. You've got a little get-out-of-jail-free card, but there's no reason to risk Gabriel when Tawee Walker, Marcus Major, Gavin Sawchuk, whoever should be able to run plenty on the ground against this UCF rushing defense.
I think that Dillon Gabriel is going to continue to be a key factor in OU's ground game. I mean, obviously the team has not found a clear-cut number one option at running back. It looks like Tawee Walker's been the most productive whenever he's gotten the opportunities. But again, still, even with Tawee Walker, it doesn't seem like he is the clear-cut number one back that the Sooners are used to, that Jeff Levy's used to having. And so I think that will lend itself to Dillon Gabriel continuing to be a big factor in the run game, like we saw against Texas, and even like we saw, a little earlier in the year, bits and pieces of it against Cincinnati, SMU, things like that. But I think that another factor in that is Dillon Gabriel's Heisman aspirations. I think that obviously Jeff Levy, the OU coaching staff, knows that Dillon Gabriel is firmly in that Heisman conversation now. If they can get him extra touchdowns, extra yards on the ground, they know that'll help his case. And I think that I don't think that the coaching staff will be shy to lean into that, especially if it's going to help win them games, which it did against Texas.
All right, gentlemen, good stuff as always. Thanks for that. Folks, please remember, bookmark us at allsooners.com for our wall-to-wall coverage of OU versus UCF all weekend long. Our staff has got you covered. Pre-game, the in-game live blog, post-game interviews from players and coaches, of course, our post-game reaction on the field, and the All Sooners podcast, which is certified fresh from the press box, and so much more. Just keep it right here at allsooners.com. For Ryan Chapman and Randall Sweet, I'm John Hoover. See you guys.